extraordinary, from Timbuktu to Dogon country, and yet we're warning American citizens right now, on this very day, not to travel to Timbuktu, again, because of change in the situation up there, and I'll touch on that again. And when I talk about the GDP, the combined GDP, I'm making the biggest mistake of all, which is, as John mentioned before, that Africa is not one finite country, although there are plenty of Americans who think that it's just one place. And the video that they see on the evening news of the fighting in Somalia, the fighting in Cote d'Ivoire, the fighting in Libya, fighting conflict, insecurity, the lack of food, the lack of power, the lack of water. Africa gets tagged with an unfair name because, in fact, Africa is made up of many, many different countries. And by far, the majority of those countries are stable and welcoming to tourists. And that's absolutely essential to remember. Africa is not one country, America. It's made up of many, many different countries, most of whom are very stable. And in fact, I would just like to say that after Mali, I went on to Togo, where, and we didn't even know it at the embassy in Togo, but the Carnival Cruise Lines, I'm not sure how many remember the TV series, The Love Boat. Well, they had taken the Love Boat, moved it to West Africa, and were hopping from country to country. And it was wildly popular with African Americans trying to get back to their roots in West Africa, and they would travel and stop in each port, and it was very exciting. But it was also a little bit bizarre. I kept looking for Captain Stubing on the Love Boat when he pulled into Togo, but they said, gone. In any case, let me tell you where we stand now. And I said democracy and human rights is the key American goal in Africa. Of course, there's economic development. Of course, there's our work in the fields of health, and the President's Malaria Initiative, to PEPFAR, which is spending billions of dollars on the epidemic of AIDS, of HIV/AIDS, which is crippling the continent in many ways. But I've spent most of my time over the past 2 or 3 months on Cote d'Ivoire, and I'm not sure if there are any Ivoirians there. I'm not really going to talk about politics, except to say that how difficult it is in Africa to convince the boss to leave at the end of his tour. Now, I know in Tanzania they don't have that problem. In fact, President Kikwete just recently served on the African Union panel of heads of state looking in to solve the Cote d'Ivoire crisis. And I applaud you, Ambassador, for the AU's courageous decision yesterday in affirming that Alassane Ouattara, in fact, is the elected president of Cote d'Ivoire. But Cote d'Ivoire has a great deal to offer for tourists, but also for business. And yet it is poised on the edge of civil war. And the first thing that disappears when you're